Good afternoon, and thanks for stopping by Across the Fence. I'm Keith Silva. The Vermont Legislature recently convened to begin its 2024 session. While issues around housing, opioid treatment, and flood recovery are top of the agenda, so are agricultural concerns like finding feed for animals, improving infrastructure in the state's meat processing, and funding innovation in Vermont's dairy sector. The man responsible for making these issues get into the Vermont Legislature is Secretary of Agriculture, Food and Markets, Anson Tebbetts. Welcome back to Across the Fence, Anson. We were talking before we started taping, and you first came on this program when you were 5 years old?
5 years old. I was in a 4-H birding club with my neighbors in Cabot, and her name was Barbara Carpenter. And 4-H, as you know, is a wonderful organization,
yes.
And birding is still with me. Still with
right.
me, so
That's
about
right.
5 years old.
That's right. We are, as you know, from back then, Across the Fence is an educational program. What is the agency's role in how a bill becomes a law?
Well, it's a complicated one. Getting something passed in the legislature and signed into law by the governor may seem easy on the surface, but it's really complicated. Hundreds of bills are introduced each year, and only a handful make it across the finish line. And the process, has to be written, and usually a lot of input. Right now, the agency has got a series of public outreach meetings across the state of Vermont, all 14 counties, and we're gathering information from them. And some of that information may be turned into legislation. We may approach the agriculture committees or the natural resources committees about something that we would like to do, and they help us through that. And they may have something they want to do, and then we respond to that. We testify a lot at the agency on bills that are related to agriculture and the natural environment.
So you just don't go to the governor and say, hey, this needs to happen, and the governor says, oh, it's you, Anson. Sure.
No, we certainly have influence, and we do have some priorities that we'd like to get across the finish line. And we're focused on economic development, agriculture front and center, trying to make it more affordable for farmers to stay in business and grow and expand, and that's one of our priorities for this legislative session.
The Vermont Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets, it's right there in the title. You handle marketing of Vermont and Vermont products. You're also an enforcement agency. You also carry out the laws or make sure the laws are being followed. That must be a delicate balance to walk.
And we have lots of rules and regulations that we follow. We have an agency of about 130 people, and about 80% of what we do is regulatory. So we inspect farms for sanitation. Right. We inspect maybe the cheese plant to make sure it's safe. Meat inspections, another thing we do. Weights and measures, if you're at your gas pump and you see that, making sure you get the proper amount of gas, we do that. So we do that, and then we have an arm of our agency that works on economic development, the Ag Development Division. And this is where we work on promoting products. Maybe it's helping someone get to a trade show and growing their market through that. So we have a number of support programs, whether it's dairy or the bees, or whether it's the plant industry, Christmas trees, et cetera. We have a host of things that we do promote.
I think you've mentioned a couple of them already. What are the agency's top priorities for 2024?
Well, growing the economy, I think it's really important that we've come through a pretty difficult year for Vermonters, and I'm talking about the flood and the severe weather that is still with us, has not relented in December and January with high wind and too much rain. So I think there's a lot of work on recovering from the flood. Farmers had probably about, some of the surveys we've done, in about $40 million in damage statewide through the severe weather through the summer. So that's a big hit for them. So we've got to work on anything we can do to make them get to a better place. We're not going to make them whole. It's certainly with that price tag, we're not going to make them whole from what happened. Housing is another big priority for the administration. Agriculture, we have farm worker housing. It's really important. And we also have a number of our processing facilities. They're struggling to find employees, and they're telling us one of the reasons they're having a difficult time recruiting is because of lack of housing. And that has a ripple effect right down to the supermarket, where they may not have the workers to process that particular product, and you're not seeing it in the grocery store.
Right. As we were getting ready for this program, you said that right in your hometown, Cabot, the Cabot processing is having issues with finding employees to house. So it's not like Anson Tebbetts is up on the hill somewhere, disconnected from all of this. It's right in your backyard, literally.
No, yeah, we're hearing from a lot of our, particularly our cheese processing plants, so, whether it's Cabot, they would love to operate that plant 7 days a week. Sometimes they're only able to operate it 5 days a week. So that has a really a ripple effect on that plant. And we hear from cheesemakers like up in Greensboro, Jasper Hill, world-class cheese being made there. A lot of enthusiasm of people that want to come to Vermont, want to enjoy the outdoors, recreate in that region. But they don't have enough housing. So I think it's all corners of Vermont, but I think we're part of the discussion on the bigger scale. Agriculture has to play a role, and we need workers, but if we're going to get workers, we need to address the housing issue as well.
You mentioned the flooding, of course, earlier this year. I think one of the things that I saw on the website that was really great is that you have started a feed finder marketplace. Tell me about this.
Yeah, one of the things that happened out of the flood, not necessarily all of it was as a result of the event of that, the July event, but it rained constantly, and everyone remembers that this summer. It rained constantly. So farmers were not able to get into the fields, maybe harvest hay, et cetera. So, and there was need for making sure our livestock need to be fed. So working with the Agency of Digital Services in Vermont, we put together a digital platform where someone, if they do have feed, they can advertise on that as their name, number, contact information, email. And then if you're looking for feed, you can go to this site. So we have about 125 people that have posted information about feed, whether they have corn for sale, whether they have silage, whether they have hay, et cetera. And this is for everybody. If you have, maybe you have 5 horses that are, and you have a lack of feed, and and maybe you have 200 cows that you need. Maybe you have some goats or some sheep. So it's right on the Agency of Agriculture website. I encourage people to go there. If you have feed for sale, put it up for the public. And if you're looking for it, you can find out, and it's all done by county, so it's not too far away from you.
In the 2024 fiscal year budget, you did get money allocated for the Vermont maple producers, $540,000. It's a nice chunk of change. What is this money for?
It's to make it more affordable for sugar makers, but it's mostly around infrastructure. The governor put together a commission over the last 3 years, the Governor's Commission on the Future of Agriculture. And one of those things that we learned from it was we need to invest in agriculture. We also need to invest in infrastructure, long-term strategies, and it aligns with many of the goals of the governor and the administration of long-term investments. So this could buy a piece of equipment that makes it more affordable for a sugar maker. We learned a tremendous amount from this. We're going to be making some decisions over the next few weeks about who will receive the $550,000, but we had $19 million in requests from our sugar makers. Okay. So there's a tremendous amount of need, interest with that as our sugar makers continue to evolve and grow. We produce about 50% of all the maple syrup in the United States, about 2 million gallons a year. That's consistent, but we're going to learn a lot about where the need is also from the people that we're probably going to, we're going to disappoint some people, but we've got some good information, and some people will receive some money to grow their businesses. That's great. My colleague Jolie Whitney recently spoke with the director of UVM Extension, Roy Beckford, about the relationship between the Agency of Agriculture and Extension. Let's listen to what Roy had to say about how the agency and Extension work together.
Tell me about how UVM Extension has been working with the Agency of Ag, Food and Markets to help Vermonters.
Well, the Agency of Ag has been a collaborator and very integral part of what we do in Extension. We partner on a variety of issues dealing with any issue in agriculture and any issue pertaining to ag and natural sciences. And so we're indelibly linked over the years, and I think this will continue for a long time to come. The Secretary of Agriculture in the state of Vermont, Anson Tebbetts, has become not just a collaborator, but a very good friend. And he reaches out proactively to see where we are, what's going on, and I do the same. And so the relationship is great. In the bigger states, it's very
relationship between UVM Extension and the Agency of Agriculture. Your friend, at least he called him.
He is.
Your friend. So I think you guys, the two of you get along quite well. why is that important? What are we doing for Vermonters? Okay, so you and Roy Beckford are pals. So what? How is a farmer in Lunenburg? What does that matter to them?
Well, it's really important, the partnership, and Dr. Bedford is, tremendous. He too is, talking with our farmers, getting out in all the 14 counties, working with us, and they offer just incredible knowledge, technical assistance, whether it's an agronomist. During the flood, Dr. Darby was working on whether the corn was going to be safe for our farmers, working with us. We worked with her to find out how do we get this corn tested so it may not hurt the animals, and what's the quality of that. And it crosses a number of different partnerships, but UVM is research, and farmers rely on that research. They believe when they hear it from UVM Extension, they believe it, and they get together, and farmers learn from farmers, and a key part of that is working with all the agents, all the offices, whether it's helping with health services, whether it's helping with our dairy farmers and technical assistants, or whether it's our agronomists at UVM. So it's really a valuable partnership we have, and we are very appreciative of what UVM does for us.
Well, thank you very much, Anson. Moving from more important stuff to the fun stuff, I am jealous of your social media presence. And I rather enjoy following you on Instagram. You are a master. Got just a couple of photos here. One is of a rock star, and then the other guy is Noah Kahn. So that was definitely one that I enjoyed seeing. How did you get so into social media, and why are you so good at it?
Well, I have a communication background, and I tell our farmers from day one, I says, you folks have a wonderful story to tell. You're working the land, you're near the animals, and people want to see that. As we get farther away from people knowing where their food is grown, I think it's a real opportunity for our farmers to tell their story and tell it like it is. Not every day is wonderful on the farm. So, from time to time, tell them your favorite cow may have passed away, and you're dealing with a sick cow, and you've got flood issues, you've got wind issues, and Noah Kahn was, Noah Kahn, who's a Vermonter, I happened to be, that was at Killington, and he was at the cheese buffet. So when I was like, my two worlds collided, running into Noah Kahn and cheese, and it was my family was very upset that I got to meet him, and he was very gracious.
Well, my alarm, if the microphones caught that, we're out of time, Anson. Thank you very much. That puts the finishing touches of what we affectionately call Fence around here. My thanks to the crew behind the scenes who make this show go. And as always, thank you for stopping by Across the Fence.